For this episode, I'm Katie.
Oh, I'm Garrett.
And this is The Bar is Ankle High. And for this episode, we're delving into ADHD and dating. But we will be splicing in my conversation with the host of another podcast called To All the Men I've Tolerated Before, Natalie. And we had that discussion as well because she has ADHD and is very open that her ADHD is undiagnosed. But she's certain that she has it. And so we had this discussion over our experiences with ADHD and relationships and dating and trying to make it work without knowing that you have ADHD, and then what it looks like now that you do know you have ADHD. So that'll be in the middle of this episode, some of that conversation, but Garrett couldn't be there for that recording. So now we're talking about it now.
Yeah, I was the bad luck charm.
You were.
With that. The first time we were supposed to record it, we had gotten a snowstorm and my power got knocked out.
Mm-hmm.
And we couldn't remotely record because I didn't have electricity or internet. And then the next time we were supposed to record, my grandmother died. So I said to Katie, I was like, I can't be the reason we cancel again. So she offered to interview on her own, it worked out really well. The interview came out great. I think you guys will enjoy it. A little bit of a change of pace from our normal meanderings. It's just meanderings with somebody else.
Yeah, and I think it goes well with earlier that in May we were talking about our experiences with dieting and how heavily that was influenced by the patriarchy, but also, I think the patriarchy has pretty soundly fucked our dating experiences when we were younger, for sure.
Yeah.
And And
the name of the podcast, too, it actually works very well with the name of our podcast.
Yes. So, and that's, the gist of her podcast is, everyday misogyny and, standing up to it and questioning it and, trying to make the world a better place.
And those discussions about, like, hindsight and how that, when you think about, like, wow, I cannot believe I was willing to put up with whatever the behavior was.
Yeah.
Which I think to myself routinely. You have a memory come up and you're like, oh my God.
Oh, for sure. Oh,
I can't believe I was understanding of that or patient with that or.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Oh, absolutely. And it's the kind of thing where it's like now I have the language to describe it, but that weaponized incompetence that I so easily tolerated in past relationships as I dated somebody once who put dish soap in the dishwasher, and thank God
that's how you end up as one of those viral YouTube videos because you made your whole kitchen fill with suds. Thank
God the dishwasher didn't run for whatever reason. I don't know if he just didn't push the button or pushed the wrong button, whatever. But it was my apartment, and he was like, yeah, I put the dish soap in. And I was like, what? And there was something about the way he said it that caught my ear. And I was like, what do you, you put the tab in? And he was like, no, the dish soap. I filled it up with the dish soap. And I was like, you have a dishwasher, right? And I opened it up and had to scoop it all out and rinse out the little pot holder thing. But I was like, it was the kind of thing where I was like, well, I guess I'm doing fucking dishes now because I can't trust you to not be a full idiot when you have your own dishwasher. And that was the thing that again, looking back, I'm like, no, you use this too. You didn't put Dawn dish soap in your dishwasher. You put Cascade or whatever. Even if it was the powdered form and not the tabs, you
can still look at it and know it's not the same thing.
Right. There's no reason for you to have thought this at all.
And there's no reason that I would have thought to myself, I need to explain.
And it's couched in the well, I was trying to do something nice for you.
No.
And it's
you created more work.
Yeah. But it's that there's so much of that I tolerated. And I think I tolerated it not necessarily because of ADHD, but it was because I'm aware that I can be misunderstood and that I can misunderstand instructions. Mm-hmm. I think I can have a tendency of being too understanding of other people's mistakes sometimes.
Well, and I know I definitely was, in my early 20s, I didn't want to make somebody feel uncomfortable, and I didn't want to put somebody on the spot or make them embarrassed. So I was way more likely to be like understanding and tolerant. Like the other thing that would get me is like people running late.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember there was one guy we were supposed to meet. It was like a first date. We were meeting for coffee, and I was there like, I don't know, 10 minutes early, and like had driven from a half hour away, had parked like in downtown where you have to park on the street, and walked to this place and got a table and got myself a cup of coffee and waiting and waiting. And he texted me, he's like, oh, I'm going to be a little late. He was like 40 minutes late. And then he shows up, and I'm trying to think if I think I might have paid for his coffee, which, like, not that that's expensive, but if you're going to be
show
late,
up late, yeah,
it's shitty. And then ironically, like, so we went, I think we only had that one date.
Shocking.
We kind of like talked a little bit after that, but we never got like met up again. And he was moving to England and was going to be living in a hostel for a year. Katie just narrowed her eyes, which was how I reacted when he told me.
Yeah, I just got very squinty.
And he wanted me to come visit him. So you want me to fly to England?
Yeah, come visit me in this hostel where we'll sleep separately because men and women are housed separately in a hostel generally.
Come stay with me in my hostel? Like, just... And then...
You can have this bunk bed with this, like, Dutch lady and...
Yes.
These foreign exchange students who
Right.
are on like a weekend holiday or whatever.
Yeah. Hope you don't get bed bugs. Bye.
I will say every hostel I've stayed in Europe has been immaculate.
Oh, I'm sure like way cleaner than here.
But they were through like a tour company, so I'm sure they were vetted.
Yeah.
Not a hostel that I would be like, well, I'm trying to save money.
And then the funny thing was, like, you know, ages go by. We're still clearly both online dating. He had come back from England. Different site. I get a message that's clearly like a form email that he's sending to all of anybody. And I open it and I'm looking at him and I'm like, this is the same dude. So I look at his profile. I'm like, yep, same dude. So I wrote him an email like, really? We've met.
Yeah.
We've literally gone on a date before. And he was like, oh, like, didn't even realize. No, you definitely didn't remember who I was. The same person you tried to get to travel to another hemisphere. So anyway, yes, things that I've tolerated.
It was after my abusive ex, but I was trying to date and was supposed to meet up with somebody at a restaurant in downtown. It was after work, same thing, meet up, sitting there, and like a half hour passes, and I'm like, bud, are you going? Like, what's the plan here?
Yeah.
And he was from like 45-ish minutes north of where we were meeting. And so I was like, what's going on?
Right. Like, are you caught in traffic?
Right. And he was like, oh, sorry, I totally forgot. Can we do another day?
Suck every last D.
So
that is,
whoo,
that is rude.
Mm-hmm. So I was like, I
hope you get butthole spiders. No, we cannot.
So, well, no, unfortunately, I was like, look, like, I get it. Like, stuff comes up and you can forget stuff, but like, we're making this plan now. And so we did, and it was supposed to be like, I don't know, a few days later or something. And same place, same time. And I did something where I was like, I'm just going to like run an errand instead of going straight there.
Yeah.
And I think I texted him to confirm, and he didn't respond. And so then I was like, hey, I'm not going there until I hear from you. So, like, let me know. And he was like, he like eventually texted back and was like, oh, sorry.
No.
I can meet you at like 7:30. And I was like, no, that doesn't work for me. Like, I get out of work at 5. I'm not sitting around for 2.5 hours for you. Like, no, thanks. Like, I'm good. And like, frankly,
I hope you get butthole spiders.
well, no, but it was like he wasn't exactly like a prize for me anyway. Like there was nothing about him where I was like, "Oh, this person's like fucking hot."
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah.
I really want to meet them. They sound really interesting. He
Yeah.
was very much a person to fill my time with.
Oh, that's
So it was just like one of those things where I was like, what
am
the
I doing?
fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was like yeah, like excuse you. Like it's just such a bizarre behavior, but it is one of those things where like I definitely could have gone off on him, rightfully so, I think. Although I did go off on somebody in that same time. We were just messaging, and I don't think we ever met up, but we were just messaging, and at some point he said something like, he just got like really aggressive with the sexting, and again, had never met in person. And I was like, obviously in the middle of a trauma response anyway, shouldn't have been dating. But he said something and I was like, he was like, well, you can always like come over. And it was like 9 o'clock at night. And I was like,
excuse you.
right. Like, why would I come
I am
over
a
now?
lady.
At least on the first date. Sorry, Mom. But I was like, why would I come over now? And he's like, well, you know, like, and it might have been Tinder, but I think I was on Hinge. I don't think I was on Tinder. Hope they're okay.
Oh, there's a lot of sound effects that just happened all at once. The light made a noise. There was beeping.
But I was like, yeah, I'm not like, no, it's a school night. Like I've got work in the morning. Like what the fuck?
It's a school night.
And
I think that to myself now.
Yeah.
It's a school night.
And I said that to PK when we first started dating, and he would like want to hang out on a Saturday and had to work the next morning and like leave for work at 5:30. And I'm like, isn't it a school night? Like, why are you coming out to hang out with me? Obviously, because I'm the tits, but
and I also have tits.
I do. And this other guy wanted to see them, evidently. And so like he was just saying something and like something to the effect of like, well, like be honest, like what are we doing here? Like you're online dating, obviously you just like want to get it in. Like made this whole thing like obviously like I'm the slut for being online dating. You know what's
dating. Really gonna work when you want me to come over for a booty call? Acting like that.
And so like I went off on him and I was like, excuse the fuck out of you, but like I'm nobody's slam pig. Like you can find a cum dumpster somewhere else. You know what?
Else. That's right. You used to use that term a lot.
I do.
Yeah.
I like that phrase.
Yeah. She's so happy with her. Well, yes, I do.
So then, maybe I did meet up with him. That's what it was. So we met up and we walked around a park in like downtown, in
another downtown.
A different downtown. We walked around a park for a little bit and it was like a Saturday afternoon, whatever. And so we were talking and, he was like, it was the kind of thing where I was like, in that stage of like, well, do I tell you my trauma or not? But like at the same time, like I'm definitely jumpy and standoffish and like I want to make sure that we're meeting in a public place and like whatever. So we had this like whole conversation and he like walked me to my car and at that point he said something like, well, if you ever want if I ever wanted to get dicked down by him, basically was like more or less what he said, like give me a call. And I was like, that's not what I'm looking for here. Like, that's not what I'm about. And he was like, well, then I don't know, like why you wasted my time or something. And then I went off on him. So we didn't talk after that. And then a few years later, matched again. And I had no recollection of this person whatsoever. Like, I remember it now.
Yeah.
But like when I matched with him on Hinge or whatever, he was like, you know, we've matched before. And I was like, no.
Totally unwilling to hear what he has to say.
What
no.
Working memory. So, like, we have this talk, and he was like, yeah, you know, like, and I was like, okay, well, like, tell me about your hobbies or something, because you're not ringing a bell. And then he texted me and he's like, see, like, you have my number. And I was like, which is accurate. Like, it was whatever his name dash hinge was, in my phone. And I was like, yeah, I understand that your number's in my phone. I just don't know who you are. And he was like, well, like, I do this and that. And he, like, listed off some hobbies. And I was like, oh. And he's like, we walked around the park and then you got really mad at me. And then
I just rolled
later on that night, he said something to the effect of, like, a nightcap. And I was like, oh, now I remember you. Yes. Yeah. No. That's
so you really grew
still
from
not what I'm
you.
doing here.
Right.
Like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that ironic that then you wind up, like, in the same conversation, basically? Like,
right.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah. And it is that kind of thing that I think, like, I think especially as women, but especially women with ADHD, you can end up in that cycle where you're like, am I wrong for thinking that I should have XYZ instead?
Which is why I think I was so likely to be understanding of things and not push back on things. Not because in my brain I wasn't like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But it was 100% that, remember in Gone Girl, she goes on that cool girl rant where she's talking about, like, that almost like pick me, like, that's like tolerant of everything.
And I'll hang out.
Right, understanding and cool and laid back, and that's always, and it's not that I'm not that way, but I also do have boundaries that I was not utilizing. Like, would to a degree, but not as consistent and as firm as I actually was, like my gut reaction was.
Yes, it was very, and I think it's like a different, like, a lot of times in neurodivergent spaces, they talk about masking and unmasking.
Totally.
But I think also just for women, there's like a level of masking where it's like, yeah, like the pick me girl, like you want to be cute and
you
like
don't want to be labeled a bitch.
No, and it's very like kind of 1950s, like make sure that your hair is done and you look cute and you're not complaining because he doesn't want to hear you complain and da 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 da, and it's all this stuff, and like we were kind of raised on that, like we weren't really, but like,
I mean, just circumstantially.
Go back and watch the original seasons of Hell's Kitchen, and there's some wild takes on women in a professional cooking setting there that, like, I was unprepared for. But also, so it is, like, pervasive, and I think to that extent there is, at least for us when we grew up, there was this expectation that, like, you know, you wait to complain about things in your relationship. You wait until you're sure you're going steady and that you've been together for a while, because if you're constantly complaining, he's not going to want to be around a nag. And rather than it just being like, no, I'm not complaining. I'm telling you that that's not okay with me. Like, there's a difference between me being upset that somebody doesn't put a trash bag in the trash bin in the trash bin when I take out the trash. That's a complaint.
Yes.
But that's not like a thing, like, like being mad at somebody because they're expecting me to come over and suck their dick on a moment's notice.
Right.
Is not me being outrageous. Like,
right.
That's a reasonable thing to be bitchy about. Like, yeah, I am a bitch.
Yeah.
Like, don't speak to me that way.
Yes. And also, like, am I a bitch, or is it just that I don't like that?
Right.
And I'm clearly communicating things I like and don't like, just like he is, or just like they are, in whatever the situation. So yeah, I think it's just really, I mean, I'm not obviously in a dating atmosphere right now, but I just think back on some of those situations and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I was so nice to people when I, like, shouldn't have been.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or, you know, understanding of things that I should not. And I was, I think, really ultimately, like, pretty good about being consistent. Like, I wasn't changing myself for people, but they were definitely getting a lighter version of me.
Totally.
Than friends or family or, like, ultimately long-term partners would get. Okay, so we're going to hop into the interview that Katie did with Natalie from the podcast All the Men I've Tolerated Before. Enjoy!
I'm accompanied today by our lovely co-host, Natalie, who is the host of a podcast called To All the Men I've Tolerated Before. Thank you so much for joining us. I know we were supposed to do this about 8 weeks ago.
8 weeks ago, there was a blizzard. My sister had a baby. My camera didn't want to work today. It's like, I think, did we leave Aries season today? I just feel like Aries season was like clutching on to my psyche.
Oh, that's a good point. I just assumed that Mercury was in Gatorade or something.
Always.
And
Mercury's always be trifling.
so, what is your podcast about for our listeners who don't know?
To All the Men I've Tolerated Before is my weekly look at everyday misogyny. It sounds a lot nobler than it started out as, because it literally just started out as, what if I started crafting my comedy bit about my exes now, but put it on the internet so Netflix can find me?
Okay. Have they?
No.
Oh, bummer.
The bastard.
Let me know when they do, though, because then I'll get my Netflix subscription back.
Thank you. Am I allowed to curse? I've done it twice.
Yes, we swear quite a bit. On our first episode, when my mom listened to it, she said, Katie, you just curse a lot.
My dad just avoids my show because it's about feminism. And he's highly concerned that he's on it because he is a man that I tolerate. Probably not even that well.
So, I mean, I know the answer to this, but do you have ADHD?
So I am undiagnosed ADHD, but I tell people freely that I am undiagnosed ADHD because at this point I'm pretty convinced that I have it. And what I was basically explained to by my doctor, who I trust, and I've waited years to get like a doctor where I'm like, you listen to me. Isn't that something? Is that because I'm also being treated for depression, to try and treat my ADHD on top of that would just be like a cancel out equation because the pills do different things. So I have been told that the current antidepressant I'm on, which is some sort of knockoff of Wellbutrin,
Oh, yeah.
also helps with ADHD.
Yeah, that's a really common treatment for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I will say, because everything is just based on my period at this point, there is like a good week and a half where my antidepressant isn't treating my depression or my ADHD, and I'm just feral.
That's a great way to describe it, though.
I'm just like living in my Eid. I can't think more than 15 minutes ahead of me, and I just pace my home like a tiger.
Yeah. Yeah, that's because of the decreased estrogen in your brain during that period in your cycle. So it makes it hard for your brain to synthesize any of the free dopamine that Wellbutrin is giving you.
And believe it or not, the medicine field that is riddled with privileged men never thought to take into account menstruation when they were creating all of our medicines.
Well, to be fair, they did consider it, and then they said, that's hard, and walked away
That's
from the
silly.
question.
They're like, those ladies will deal. They deal with everything else.
So when did you first kind of get the idea that you might have that you might have ADHD?
Basically, so we went underneath a quarantine pandemic situation. Have you heard of it?
No.
And I was seeing this new doctor, and, TikTok was all the rage. And once my depression started to get under control, then I was talking to my therapist about, okay, well, now that this has kind of like eased, should I bring up to you after 7 years that I have disordered eating, or should we just like ignore that? And she was like, no, we can talk about your disordered eating. So then when it was like I was finally living in a world where I understood my disordered eating, or was trying to, and was using the term disordered eating, then it was, oh, what do you mean that everyone's brain doesn't recalibrate when they walk into a new room? I thought that that was witchy stuff because of doorways, but apparently something else is happening.
Yes. Good point, though. Nobody has been asking the tough questions. Are we actually witches?
I am actually woo-woo witchy woman, but I would like my brain to continue to work as I enter doorways.
Yeah, I feel like that is a very unique, like, kryptonite, if that is
Yeah.
the case, because
Like,
they're everywhere.
thank goodness my condo is pretty kind of like open concept, so I'm never really truly like entering one room and exiting another because I would get nothing done. I can pretty much see my entire house the entire day. But man, those days where it's like I get into the grocery store and I go, why would I ever be here? And I'm
Yeah,
just
no, it's
unprepared.
wild.
And I just
Um,
go home with Oreos. Like it was Oreos. That's why I came here.
isn't not a bad shopping haul as far as I'm concerned.
But yeah, it was tracking my symptoms. Like I was so bad about like watch me be like I was doing with my depression. No. Every time a nurse or a doctor tried to ask me, um, well, let's rate you on the depression SAT where you have to do
Mm,
like a survey. I was like, I don't know any of these answers. And finally, one of the nurses told me a trick and she was like, track your symptoms in 2-week chunks. Don't try to think like, how depressed have I been my entire lifetime? Think about how depressed you've been for 14 days.
okay.
And that helped because it shortened it. But once I got into the habit of like tracking what was actually going on with my body and also watching other people kind of be like, once I finally started talking to my doctor openly and honestly about what was going on in my head and my body, I realized that I am one of the many people who just went undiagnosed with ADHD. And I was like, oh, me too. That's what
Yeah.
it is.
So how did that, now that you have more or less ascertained that you have ADHD, when you're able to look back on your previous relationships, like your romantic relationships, do you think that your ADHD has helped or hurt your dating history in any way?
So it's one of those fun things. So I'm undiagnosed ADHD. I'm a Capricorn. I'm an eldest daughter and a former teacher. So, if anything, ADHD was this really great superpower, which meant that I was always in control of all of the things that I was juggling and was
Mhm.
continuously being thrown at because I was like, yeah, my brain loves to switch like modes every 10 minutes. So, throw another thing at me. And
Mhm.
when I wasn't teaching, I was working in theater, which is also just a job where someone screams something at you and you have to go and react. Um, and when it came to my relationships, I think a lot of my former partners were falling into like seduction with my coping mechanisms and not actually understanding why they were coping mechanisms because it was just fun for them.
What do you mean?
So, I once had a partner tell me that the reason why he didn't want to date me seriously instead of the casual thing that we were doing was because the reason he had been attracted to me in the first place was because whenever I entered the room, I became everyone's favorite person in the room and I was like courting or flirting with the entire room. And I think he thought that once we started sleeping together, that would just be reserved for him.
Oh, okay.
And then when it didn't become reserved for him, because I was like, no, that's why you wanted to date me, because I court the room, because I'm a constant episode of Bridgerton. He like, there was a pride thing behind that. And I don't think that he understands that while we were dating, or while, not even while we were dating, while he was observing me as a person that he would one day want to enter some sort of physical relationship with, all of my socializing was an outlet so I didn't have to be at home juggling all of the ways that my brain needs to be entertained because I was out. So I could start up a game with someone or walk up to the bar and meet someone new or get snacks for everyone. And you can naturally kind of mask and be in the social setting and be switching as often as your attention wants to switch. But at home, it's literally just me and this cat
Mm.
and scrolling through all of our streaming services with just decision paralysis because nothing is truly great to choose. You're like, well, what if I choose this and I'm missing out on whatever's on Disney Plus? What if I want to watch Beauty and the Beast for the 37th time? But what if I also want to watch Grey's Anatomy? How do I do both?
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, no, I think it happened for me, like looking back, the biggest critique I've gotten, or one that's really sticks out to me, is that I always apparently came across as being really pompous.
Oh.
Which blows my mind because I don't see myself that way at all. In fact, I feel like I didn't really fit in that much in law school because I was very much like, this is fucking stupid. Like, we're
Yeah.
all here for the same thing. Like, what? I don't need to impress anybody. Um, and so, but I was told that I was pompous because I didn't date. And I mean, I dated, I don't even know you could call it dating. I hooked up with some people in law school, but otherwise I didn't really date any lawyers and still haven't. And the so all the people I was dating weren't in law school, but anytime I had like a really weird random fact about like jellyfish or whales and their migratory patterns or
Yeah.
like anything super fucking random, and would just say like, "Oh, well, actually, it's da 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 da." I remember in particular, one of the guys that I was dating in law school told me like, "Well, you just make my friends feel, and like you make them feel bad because you're using words that they don't understand." And I was like, "Then maybe they need to learn some better fucking
Maybe.
words."
Have you ever heard of a book? Have you ever tried reading? Reading is essential.
Well, and I was like, "Why? Like, I'm not using
Yeah.
like I'm aware that I have perhaps a more elevated vocabulary than some, but it's not like his friends were like raised by wolves. Like they still spoke and they all went to like a very good high school in this area. Like it wasn't like they didn't have access to good education. So I was like, at the very least, you all are starting at the same starting point that I had. So I know, referencing like high school curricula, you should not feel left behind. I shouldn't have to explain what To Kill a Mockingbird is about. I'm
Oh my
sorry, I
God.
shouldn't.
You should have just made them go see Where the Crawdads Sing, because when I left Where the Crawdads Sing, I told everyone, like, I'm glad you all were blown away by this book. It's just To Kill a Mockingbird with a white girl from the South, like from the swamp. That's all it is. I am currently running into that phenomenon where I think a lot of things come into play. I think that due to a very big election that ended up with a volatile toddler in the White House, a lot of people
Oh,
have become,
Obama, I remember.
yeah, Obama. Do you remember Obama? No, I like to call him our most famous Oompa Loompa.
Aw.
He, I think that a lot of people are now just scared of taking new information. So now all of a sudden it's like I'm running into this a lot with people who aren't as secure in their identity as I am, where I'm not combating you or arguing with you or even like judging you. I'm just saying that, there was a new documentary that came out about the pyramids, and the way that the pyramids were built may have been incorrect, what we were taught in elementary school. And we've gotten into this like volatile area where like once you tell someone that like one thing that they knew in the third grade was wrong, they're willing to just like spiral and be like, is my dad a liar? And it's like, probably, but he probably didn't mean to.
Right, like,
Like,
was he lying about, like, who your mom is? Or was he just lying about, like, something that he thought was true? And,
right.
like,
And
it's the kind of thing I mean, fuck, in the '70s, they thought that sugar made you have ADHD because it made you hyper. So like like shit changes.
And
So
honestly, isn't the science now that we crave sugar because we're trying to regulate what's going on chemically with us and ADHD?
just carbs in general, because it
Yeah.
gives your brain a dopamine spike, and since our brains don't produce, or at least if we do produce it, we're not absorbing it at the right amounts, then by giving ourselves a dopamine hit with something sugary, then we're giving ourselves enough dopamine to like get back to that normal level. And then also you have the issue of like you mentioned, disordered eating. When you have these periods of restriction, then you end up thinking like, okay, well, if I can only have this sugar this time and I've already quote unquote been bad and
Yeah.
have to like, then my day is shot, so I might as well have as much sugar as possible. You've restricted yourself into the point where you're getting an even bigger dopamine hit from the restricted item, whether it be pizza or whatever. But yeah, like the reason your brain needs carbs is because it gives you fast energy, and part of that fast energy comes from dopamine.
Mhm.
So
I
yeah, that's it's
well,
so fucked.
and now that I'm 34, and now that I've finally become really attuned to who I am as a person, I don't want to shut off my brain anymore and just be like, no, you're right about salmon mating patterns, and you've always been right. And the fact that you think that you're right is so important to me. No. I will literally just say, no, I think that they swim upstream now, and then like destroy your entire foundation of living. Um, and I am constantly, mostly it is fragile white dudes. They are my biggest supporters, but they are continuously upset with me. And then they think that I'm going to then care that they're upset with me. And I'm like, oh, if you're going to pout in the middle of trivia, you're going to pout in the middle of trivia. I'm going to go pet all of the dogs on the patio and probably forget that you exist.
I mean, at least for a minute, thank God.
Yeah.
Small
Thank God for
miracles.
dogs. Thank God for patio dogs at trivia for when you have to escape your own team.
Right before I met my partner PK, I was went on a couple dates, I think 2 or 3 dates with this guy who had lost a bunch of weight. He had done Weight Watchers and lost like a lot of weight. And there was just something strange about him. He did like wealth management, something or other for some firm in the area. But he said all this stuff and I was just like, yeah, like, and he kept putting himself down. And I was like, man, I don't know what to tell you, but like, I'm not here to be like, I think you need a therapist.
Yeah.
Like,
Um,
period. Like, it's not normal to speak about yourself that way. And I'm certainly not qualified to walk you through it. And he was like, no, you're right, I'm just a piece of shit, and like would go back into it. And it was the kind of thing where I was like, about 5 years ago now, I was in a violently abusive relationship, and had I not gone through that and done the work that I needed to do after that relationship ended, I think I would have been more inclined to tolerate this man's bullshit and baby him kind of
mhm.
into feeling better about himself. And I think he was probably used to that from
Yeah.
other women. And I was like, so finally I just said to him like, hey man, I think that we're just at different points in our lives. Like I just don't think that we're in the right spot. And he was like, well, I don't understand. I told, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, look, that's all there is to it. That's the explanation. We're not in the same space. End of story. And I'm not shitting you, Natalie. He went off the handle.
Of
I've
course.
never had somebody do this before. Fuck you. You and your friends are making fun of me all the time. You're such a piece of shit. You make me feel like garbage and you want me to feel bad because you're the one that did that to me. And da 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 da. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
But I didn't respond. I just sent the screenshots to my friends.
Oh yeah, for
Duh.
Dateline. Yeah.
And so I was just like, what the fuck? And so I just didn't respond, like, whatever. Um, it was still super entertaining because he was like spiraling, and thank God he didn't know where I lived. But it was also that thing where he, like, the next morning he was like, "Good morning." Like nothing had happened. It was, I'm not kidding you,
Oh,
deranged. It was nuts. And so then, like, I didn't respond, and like 2 hours later he was like, "Oh, so I guess you're just not talking to me anymore." And again, didn't
correct.
respond. And this went on for like 3 days. Like, he would check
Or yeah.
in like after work and then say goodnight. And then in the morning he'd text me again. And then finally he was like, "Well, fuck you. I've never done anything to you. I've always been nice." And so I sent that screenshot to my friend, and she sent it back to me with everything he had said circled. And so I sent that screenshot with all the circles back to him. And he was like, "Well, that's just because you made me say that."
Oh, okay.
But it
No.
was such a thing where I was like, "Oh my God, I never would have, it never would have gotten to this point because I never would have
Mhm.
kind of like stood up for myself and by disengaging from
Yeah.
that behavior." But I was at least able to know myself. And at that point, I hadn't been diagnosed with ADHD. So it was just one of those things where I was like, I don't want to deal with this, like, regardless.
So, no, I am continuously telling women in my social field, in my life, people that I love and enjoy, that it's the quiet, whiny ones that you have to watch out for. I feel like
Totally.
Moonstruck, that movie with like Cher and Nicolas Cage, made us believe that every abusive relationship we would be in would just be like punching out
Yeah.
walls and screaming Stella and like shaking you up against a door or something. But on the opposite end of that abuse spectrum are these like really insecure partners where it's like you were funnier or you were smarter or you looked better or you felt better about yourself or something that day, and you just watch them curl into this like silent, seething, resentful moment. And I'm like, no, and I just like pointed out, I was like, do you see him? Your partner? He's literally listing all of the reasons in his head that you shouldn't be on the planet because you make him feel bad. Like, that's what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's eventually like slamming their glass on the table and being like, "I don't understand why you guys are always making fun of me." We're not making fun of you. I literally don't want to end up on Dateline. I have my outfit picked out, but I don't want to go.
Yeah, totally. And it's the kind of thing where it's like, man, well, and this guy in particular, there, like, I swear to God, he was what's his face from American Psycho. He,
Mm,
like, at one point, because we're just getting to know each other, but like, he did, it was very bizarre because I was like, I didn't do this for you, man. But
mm.
he sent me pictures from like inside his apartment, like almost showing off. But
Oh.
it was, I was like, I didn't send you pictures of inside my apartment, but it
Yeah.
looked sterile. It looked like one of those kind of like extended stay or something, like those
Mhm.
corporate rentals. And I was like, there's nothing in this apartment that says, this is my personality, this is my style, that I live here as a human. And, like, I don't just like plug myself into my charger at the end of the night and reboot for tomorrow.
Yeah.
It was so bizarre and so, yeah, just sterile that I was like, there's something, like, assuming even that he didn't have some sort of psychosis that he was dealing with, personality wise, we would not have jived. My place is a mess, as you can see. I'm also in the middle of moving.
Oh, wait.
But
I'm in my art loft. So
yeah, it's a
just
disaster in here right now. But like, that's just who I am because I have ADHD. I'm really bad at cleaning up. I've got terrible
no.
executive function. But
My
like,
dad is visiting this weekend, and yesterday my sister called and she's like, "So, are you ready for dad to be there?" And I go, "I've been very focused on making my house look okay so we don't have like a Britney Spears situation and he
mm,
tries to legally get a conservatorship on me, because I will look at him and be like, 'No, this is how I live and it's fine.'"
totally. I
And he'll
know,
be like,
like,
"This isn't how people live."
I mean, it's how some of us live.
That's how some of us live. I have tried to explain to my father and my sister and anyone who will listen about partner privilege, but also like masking neurotypical privilege, because I don't believe that like anyone in my family is 100% neurotypical, but they can play the game.
Yeah.
And they've like really trained themselves to like play the like this is how people live game. And I've tried to explain it, and it happened when I left my last job because it was like a mental and emotional torture to me. And I told my dad, and I was like, before the pandemic, I would have never have given myself the opportunity to say no to like consistent money and security. But it's truly a disservice to me that because for 10 years I've always lived on my own and unpartnered and done it my way, that I don't have any of these like safety potholes to fall back on. So when you come to my house and you want to make fun of like what I've let go and what I've kept up with, it's like, well, I don't have any. Penelope, my cat, doesn't do any chores.
Yeah, my cats are really bad at it. I tried to tell them to
Yeah.
help, but they refuse. I mean, so they're both asleep on my bed right now. They're
Yeah. And
useless.
everyone in my family is partnered. And I was like, you guys don't understand like what it's like to have a bad day
Yeah.
or a bad holiday season. There are things in my house and my body that have not recovered from holiday depression. And I just find them like, oh, that never recovered. I guess we'll just do something with this now.
Totally. PK and I are moving in together in a few weeks. And that's one of the things that we've talked about is just how nice it'll be to have somebody, because he also has ADHD, but how nice it'll be to have somebody to live with so that we can say, okay, on Saturday at 10 a.m., we're setting a timer and cleaning this fucking house.
Yeah.
And just having somebody to hold you to it and like being able to trade off cooking and like nights cooking and who's making the leftovers and little things where it's like, God, to just be the one person who's responsible for cleaning the bathroom and the kitchen and the litter box, like, fuck me.
Yeah.
Ugh, it's for the
And
birds.
and people like to be like, you don't have goals. Yeah, I have goals and I even write them down every day. But sometimes my brain just laughs at me while I'm looking at those goals. Like,
Right. Well, and it is that kind of thing where it's like, yeah, you can have goals all the fuck you want, but like, you know, if my goal is I want to run a marathon this year, I'm about 300 pounds. That's not happening this year, not safely. And so it's just that kind of thing where it's like, well, having goals and um even like so I guess I feel like for a while that book The Secret kind of like took
God.
hold.
Yeah.
Right. And so everybody's like, well, all you have to do is like only think about what you want and then you'll just have what you want. And it's like, well, first of all, I don't even know that I could necessarily unmedicated articulate exactly what I want because I've got like 3 different B-roll conversations happening in my brain at all times. I listen to podcasts and or music 100% of the time if I'm not
All
at
of the
home.
time. Why would I ever be alone with my thoughts? It's not
What
great
kind of
there.
Oh.
Not great there.
Right, like I'm researching and like doing legal research and briefing an entire memo or doing all of my line of questioning for a hearing while listening to a true crime podcast or like listening to any number of things. And yet it's it's as if that podcast never happened. I don't hear it, but it's just like something to drown out the rest of the voices so that I
Yeah.
can just focus. And that's with meds on board. Like
Mm-hmm.
it has been the fact that I was an attorney for 8 years before getting diagnosed just blows my mind. Like, no wonder I was so frustrated with every job I had and feeling like I couldn't accomplish anything. No
Yeah.
wonder I wasn't.
The Secret and the like, and I do believe in like, I mean, I just said yesterday that I was looking at my vision board and I was realizing that a majority of it had already come true without my knowing. Um, but you know, good
Well,
on
don't
me.
hold on. Here's my vision board for the
Oh,
podcast.
are you getting a puppy?
No, I
No,
want a
all
golden
right.
retriever. That would be my dream pet. But my boyfriend has a dog, so I guess technically I'm inheriting one.
Yeah.
He has a dog and a cat. But
Oh, he sounds like the best.
he is. He's like a golden retriever if a golden retriever were a human. But I have this one, and then I have another one on my dresser, and I was looking at the one on my dresser the other day because usually it's covered by my mismatched socks that don't have
Mm-hmm.
partners. And I was looking at it, and I was like, I have a picture of Chip and Joanna Gaines on it, and like a little house with some flowers and a garden, and like a weight goal, yeah, and like a financial goal is on there, but like a dog and a cat and all this other stuff. And I was like, in 3 weeks, like I'm gonna have almost everything on that fucking vision board. And so it was just like one of those things where I was like you just said, like you can look at it and be like, holy shit, like this
Oh my
stuff is
God.
happening. And I didn't even realize it. And like even with this one for the podcast, like we have like a semi-professional recording studio in Garrett's place.
Oh my goodness.
Like little things, like I have this quote here, like happier at home and ready or not, ride the wave. And um like especially having like a business partner to do it with has
Mm-hmm.
been like we've had a little bit of like adjusting and learning how each other works and how we like to
Always.
work. But yeah, like it's just one of those things where I was like looking at it and I was like, we're gonna get those download numbers now,
Well,
right? Like that's the
hold
last
on.
thing on there that we haven't gotten.
Mine fell on the floor, so it's kind of in an arm's reach.
Okay.
So mine's a giant poster.
That's big.
Yeah. Because I can't do anything small. I can't.
Yeah. That's like what I did
And
a book report on back in the day.
so my whole thing was during my holiday depression spell, it was a horrible holiday season for me. I will just
That
be
sucks.
very,
I'm sorry.
very honest with that. All I wanted to do was to feel better about my body, not even have like really a goal set in mind, but just like remember when you were doing yoga every day and you actually had a relationship with your body? Well, I've been doing 20-ish minutes of like dance aerobics cardio every day to train for the Eras tour and how long my body is going to have to sustain moving for it and
Also, great
standing.
idea though. Like good
Yeah.
thinking ahead.
Because I've watched so many TikToks where people are like, your feet aren't ready, your thighs aren't ready. You have to drink water. You're in your 30s. And I'm like, I'll start drinking water again. But then there's like a script because I had this notion of turning To All the Men I've Tolerated Before into a television show. And then I wrote like half a script and I was like, this is hard.
Yeah, it is.
But I took a late night comedy writing class and I was writing scripts for sketches. And I was like, oh, that means I technically have 2 scripts written. And that's what I wanted to do. Finish a script. And
There
I
you
did.
go.
And it was just like, I need a better community surrounding me and all of these things. But the big one was, I'm a big D&D Dungeons and Dragons nerd. So I watched the Critical Role streamers and they announced yesterday that they were coming to the gaming convention that my dad takes us to every year. And I was like, their stickers are on my vision board because I said this will be the year that I woo the Critical Role people and I make them fall in love with me and give me a job. And now they are going to be literally in a place where I can cry on them, which has always been my dream, to just burst into tears and make one of them hold me.
Okay. I was thinking like collect your tears in advance and do like a papal,
like a
holy water
Catholic
situation. Yeah.
The thing about Critical Role is they were what was in my head when I was in my really last toxic, abusive job before I went on this like freelancing journey. What if I actually gave myself time to make the podcast a career type of deal? And so they were always in my head. So they've become my like security blankie. Like whenever I hear their voices, I am calm. And last year I ran into one of their guest stars and we were talking about his stint on the show at this convention I was at. And I told him, I was like, sometimes, because I'll just say things to people. I'll be like, sometimes I can't fall asleep without hearing Matt's voice. And he just started like laughing. He's like, I'm going to work with Matt next week and I'm going to like tell him. And I was like, oh, please do. I think he should know.
Yeah. Here's my card. Please call me later. Let me know. Actually, FaceTime when you tell him, please.
FaceTime when you tell Matt. So The opportunity, because I have made this joke all the time, like, should I ever have to run into a Critical Role cast member, I will just burst into tears and they will have to hold me, because they're when you run into your security blanket, like, that's a very big emotional, and they have no idea that they are my security blanket.
I mean, at this point, they might know.
They might know. I have
You could
sent
send this
some.
episode to them.
I did an episode, it's called You're Not Too Geeky to Gatekeep, about how the women of Critical Role cast members, the female cast members, are treated within the fan club.
Oh.
And how, like, they're mean.
The women are mean, or the fan club
No,
is mean?
the fans are mean to the women and how the women play. And it's a whole thing that happens in Dungeons and Dragons where girls never play right and they ruin it because we don't want to be, like, harassed.
Eat a whole dick. As I lick the rim of my champagne bottle.
I'm reading this book called Manhunt, and it's about the apocalypse has turned testosterone into, like, poison that makes you, like, feral and, like, eat people and whatnot. And it's about trans women hunting these feral, like, zombie men that the testosterone has, like, turned in their body. And how
so are the trans women like they were able to harness their estrogen levels?
They were. And
Okay.
the reason why they're hunting the cis men who are now zombified is because they castrate them and then they somehow boil down the castrated testicles or whatever to get estrogen so that they can have their estrogen doses. And it's like, it's a brutal book. It's a fascinating book. It's also horny as fuck. Like, you'll just be reading and you'll be like, we castrated 50 men today and it was hard. And one of the zombies tried to eat me. And then I had to eat a mouse or something, like, just horrific apocalypse Walking Dead shit. And then all of a sudden be like, and then I got home and I looked at one of my friends and I was like, you want to bang, right? And we banged. And I was like, why are we always banging? Who has the energy?
You wrote this book?
No, I didn't write this book. I'm reading it.
Oh, okay.
I'm reading
I was like,
it.
why are you so surprised by what you put in this fucking book?
No, I'm reading it for, like, as a favor to a book club friend because we didn't like the book club pick. So I was like, I'll read that because you wanted to talk to someone about it.
Oh, okay. Fair. That sounds like that Omega-verse stuff.
Yes. I tried to pitch it to my book club and I just, like, held it up and I was like, it's horny, but the apocalypse. And they just looked at me and I was like, also, fuck TERFs. They're also in this book. Boo. And no one took my pitch. And I was like, I don't understand.
I got kicked out of a book club because it was like our third month in a row reading a celebrity memoir kind of book. Mm-hmm. And I didn't wanna, because, like, 3 months in a row of that is a lot. And the book we read before that 3-month stint was, I think they just made it into a Netflix movie. Fuck, I'm gonna forget the name of it. But it's like this woman or this teenage girl is, like, raped at a high school party by, like, a soccer team. And then her other friend in high school does, like, a school shooting / bombing thing.
Yeah.
And she gets blamed for the bombing / shooting. And it's just this whole thing. But, like, there was no indication that that's where this book was headed. So, like, I'm reading this book and it is a quick read. Mm-hmm. But, like, you get to this part and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, you have to give people a fucking warning. Like, holy shit. It starts with this woman who has a serious eating disorder and is, like, not addressing it because she's about to get married and she just has to stay thin for the wedding. And it cuts to this, like, flashback and it's fucking horrifying. And so then we had these 3 months of celebrity memoirs and I didn't read it. And the woman who organized the book club, who I went to high school with, told me that I was no longer invited to the book club if I wasn't going to take it seriously. And I was like, yeah, I'm really just coming for the wine. So, like, I don't care.
No, that's rude as hell. At my book club, shout out to Yellow Cab Book Club. we're not required to read dick. Like, sometimes they're like, I don't know, sit in that corner and talk about something else if you didn't read the book. And I'm like, okay. And then we made sure to pick a novel and either a collection of poetry or short stories or one short story. So people who like are struggling to find the time to read can
Yeah.
still participate in some sort of form.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, this was like 6 or 7 years ago. I mean, this was a long time ago. So we were all like, I'm 35 now. Like, we were just in our like mid to late 20s. Like, nobody had kids yet. Nobody was married yet. And it's the kind of thing where now, as a 35-year-old, there's no fucking way I could pitch that to a group of people in their mid 30s who have partners and children and family obligations and whatever else. Never mind working full time. In addition to doing the podcast thing, like, I just don't have time.
Yeah. I had to completely change my schedule when it came to reading. I used to be a read before bed kid,
Yeah.
but I stay up really late and then would soothe myself to sleep with a book. And that wasn't cutting it anymore because I was just falling asleep with a book or something.
Yeah, like instantly. I'll fall asleep with a
Instantly.
book.
So now I'm a wake up and start my day with a book type of kid when
Okay.
I'm not having a really harsh, like right now I'm working an 8 to 5. So I'm not waking up early to read. But I try to read like right after work on my porch swing or something.
Mhm.
But it's helped. Have I finished my book for book club on Sunday? Absolutely not. Did I sit down to read it before we recorded? Yeah. Did I? No. Just sat holding it.
Well, I mean, that's like 2/3 of the battle. So
Yeah. I just sat down holding it, just like looking around my place. Look at my place.
look, like, there's some things where it's like very clear that you're on like burnout highway.
Yeah.
And I'm at that point where like I said, I mean, I got home and I was like, a cup of coffee would be fucking great.
Yeah.
And I'm never an afternoon coffee person ever. But like last night I went to bed at 8 p.m. and like I'm exhausted. Like, and I worked half a day. Like, I left work at 12:30, 1 o'clock to get my nails done. Like, I did work for those, 4 hours or 5 hours, but like I didn't work a full day, and yet I'm like, man, I'm wiped. There's no way. I can't pack. I don't have the energy. I got takeout for dinner. Like, no, I'm just not about it. And I think that there's a certain point where like you sit down to do those things that are intentional and you're just not getting it done. It's totally fine to just accept that it's not going to get done.
I had to also rewrite my definition of meditation because when I was like a person who was living a very 9 to 5 life, to transition from my work life into my home life, I would just sit on my meditation pillow and like light a candle and listen to some soft, soothing voice be like, breathe. Have you ever looked at a tree? Now you are the tree. And then I like fell off of that because I love to like dedicate my entire personality to something and then one day go, I hate it.
That's the ADHD.
I grow resentful and I'm like, how dare this thing that I used to be enjoying actually be my coping mechanism? I hate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I started to, because it's written on my daily goal list to like medicate. It is also written on my daily.
Also do that daily.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're
Like
prescribed
I do scratch out like, yes, I took my meds, but to meditate. And because it was like changing my mindset and I could feel like the stress chemistry doing all of the things that meditation is supposed to do. But then I had to be like, napping is also meditation because you get rest out of napping.
Yeah.
Sitting outside on your porch swing and just rocking back and forth, breathing, meditating, masturbating, meditation. Witches will tell you that sexy stuff still gets to be magic.
And dopamine comes from masturbating.
And dopamine. And dopamine. It won't just cure your headache. It'll cure whatever ails you.
A headache. In heavy quotes.
But yeah, it's one of those things where this week I am exhausted to the point where like everything has made me be like, what if I just cried? what if I what
It
if I
happens
just
sometimes.
what if I just stopped managing myself and instead I cried?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you do kind of just have to like let the wind take you where it's going to take you and figure like just focus on keeping your feet under you so that when you land you can get your
Yeah,
bearings. Like just is what it is.
it is what it is. And every day I learn something new about what's actually beneficial to my brain and what I have convinced myself is beneficial to my brain. Like, I was a person who thought that I really thrived under like a 9 to 5. Like, every day we eat lunch at noon, every day at 3 o'clock, we talk to this person. And no, I was always stressed and burnt out under that system too. It was just easier to be like, but this is normal life. This is
Mm,
something that you have to do. And working from home and giving myself like the flexibility to take like jobs that'll last for a while or just for now or whatever, and kind of being the like shepherd of my own schedule has really just like made my stress level plummet to the point where I'm like, oh, it could have felt like this all along.
which is frustrating.
Hmm.
So where can our listeners find you if they want to hear more of you?
Sure. To All the Men I've Tolerated Before drops every Thursday. It's on every podcast platform. If you want to follow us on social media, it's Men I've Tolerated Pod. I highly recommend following on Instagram and YouTube because another podcast creator and I also do live streams about our comfort movies and our comfort TV shows. So if you have ever been like, I wish I could talk about One Tree Hill more, that's what we'll be doing every Tuesday night on Instagram. And then if you're like, I wonder if Grease still holds up as a comfort movie, that's what we do every other Monday on YouTube. And they're all on the YouTube
Oh
channel,
my
Men I've
goodness, that's
Tolerated
PK's
Before.
favorite musical is
Oh
Grease.
my, has he watched it recently? Because it was my first beloved musical. Like, my aunt let me watch it way before I was supposed to be allowed to and bought me the soundtrack. And I sang it to my stuffed animals all the time. I was a very slutty Sandy.
Oh.
And and I watch it now and I'm like, the jokes aren't funny. Isn't that sad?
I think the thing that actually always struck me was that he brought some other chick to prom or whatever the fuck or
Yeah.
homecoming. And
Yeah.
then like looking back, I'm like, that woman was a predator. She
Mm-hmm.
should not have
Mm-hmm.
been allowed on campus. What
At
the
all.
fuck? And then also as a high schooler, I didn't really care for it because I was like, so the moral of the story is that you change your entire personality and what you are about to please a
Now,
man? Like, I'm not about that.
Now, I will argue that Danny started it. That's what this last rewatch of Grease made me realize is that Danny started changing himself first. And then Jules, my co-host, told me that when Grease was made, that was always the trope that men were changing themselves for the female lead. So like Grease was revolutionary because Sandy did it.
Well, if
Well,
they had done less of a good job, perhaps we wouldn't be where we are today.
damn it, Grease. Thank you so much for having me. This has been super fun.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
Well, remember to not take shit from,
Yeah, do no harm, but take no shit.
yeah. And listen to your red flag alerts
Mm-hmm.
in your gut.
And yeah, we'll be here next Thursday with a brand new episode.
Yeah. We're talking about depression next week. Wah, wah. It's going to be a
Way to sell it, Garrett. Jeez. What the fuck? I'm like, make sure you tune in. And you're like, meh, meh.
It was that
Like
Debbie,
the Debbie
Downer. Where she's talking about the train crash at Disney World. Everybody died. Wah, wah. That is what that was. Sorry. Tune in next week for another fun episode.
Yeah, in the meantime, you can join our Patreon at
Yes.
patreon.com/thebarsinklehigh. We have toe rings who get monthly horoscopes on the first of every month.
Very real, very legit horoscopes.
Yeah, that I completely make up myself each month.
Mm-hmm.
And anklets get the horoscopes plus bi-weekly Dysfunction Junction episodes. And Limbo Champions get all of that, plus they get added to our close friends list on Instagram, which is pretty clutch. You get to see Garrett working with her pregnancy pillow. If you want some merch, we have Ankle High merch at bit.ly/anklehighmerch.
Billy.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, it's been a while since I
Yeah, it
yelled
has
Bitly.
been a while since you screamed that. And make sure you're following us on Instagram at The Bar is Ankle High. We do weekly episode title poll contests where you can win a podcast logo sticker and some other goodies.
And know that I am participating in that right along with you because I don't know the episode names before
true.
they post.
Yeah. And we're coming up quickly, I hope, by the time this comes out, on 10,000 downloads. Once we hit that, we will have a big giveaway for our listeners. So make sure you're following us on Instagram because that's where that information will get posted.
And you'll also hear us screaming from wherever you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But in the meantime, don't eat a dick if it's mean to you because the bar is ankle high.
Or eat one if it's mean to you. Either way.
Yeah. That's like a...
Only eat one if you want to.
Only eat a dick if you want to.
The bar is ankle high.
Bye.